This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, my name is Patrick Gilchrist. I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist of the National Weather Service in Glasgow, Montana. Joining me is Tom Frieders, my counterpart with the Billings, Montana National Weather Service office. And this is your drought and climate briefing for Eastern Montana. And today is Friday, April 16th. So a quick look back on just how we got here, and ultimately it was just an incredibly dry winter time period. Really since December, much of Eastern Montana has not seen much in the way of precipitation. You can see here that just the period January through March, the first 3 months of the year, really shows the tail for much of the north central United States, hitting northeast Montana particularly hard. You can see Valley County here ended up with that record driest period. You can see also McKenzie County, North Dakota, and a few other counties in North and South Dakota also coming in at record driest. So it really kind of sums up how we got here, you know, the conditions leading up and leading us to these drought conditions. Temperature-wise, to go along with those dry conditions, we are also very much on the warm side. You can see the whole of northeast Montana and much of eastern Montana finishing that same period, January through March, above average on temperatures. So again, very warm and very much on the dry side. We did see a little bit of relief, though, in the form of a recent snow event. It really was targeted over northeast Montana, but we did see some much needed snowfall, but unfortunately it just really isn't going to be enough to turn the tide away from the continuing drought impacts. But you can see here that, you know, in the northeast corner, Plentywood did see over 7 inches of snow, Antelope 5 inches, Med Lake almost 5 inches, and then the Little Rockies, Zortman and Phillips County also was the big winner at 11 inches of snowfall. Again, you can see a lot of mixed bag here, a lot of 1 to 2 inch reports, but a few others, you know, Garfield County, just south of Haxby, got about 6 inches of snow. So again, we're very grateful for the snowfall and the moisture that it's going to provide. But unfortunately, from the big scheme of things, it's just not going to be enough to put a real big dent in the drought concerns. So looking at the month of April so far, you can see that temperature-wise, we really finished, you know, either side of normal. Not a real strong temperature signal one way or the other. You can see that anywhere from -2 to 2 to 4 degrees above normal for across much of eastern Montana. Again, really largely near normal temperatures. Precipitation side, though, again with that recent snow event, you can see that we've gotten some standouts here along the northern tier of northeast Montana. You can see that we've gotten some above normal precipitation amounts. Then, of course, that bullseye centered over the Little Rocky Mountains. Also worth noting is that south central Montana, the foothills and up into the Bighorns and up into the mountains there, they have been getting some snowfall and some good precipitation as of late as well. But again, by and large, you know, you can see again, there's a lot of areas that did miss out on some of this precipitation. So we're continuing to have a lot of concerns when it comes to drought. A quick snapshot look at Glasgow and then Billings, Glasgow being on the left and Billings being on the right. You can see that our precipitation deficits from what we've observed, from what we should be expecting is continuing to grow. As we are getting towards our wetter months, we should be expecting to see some of our most significant accumulations of precipitation here over the next 2 months or so. But unfortunately, you know, we continue to be largely flatlined with our accumulation totals for Glasgow. Looking down at Billings, you can see they're in a little bit better shape. But again, those flat lines where we've gone periods without precipitation show up as well. And you can see Billings now just a little bit under the normal amounts. But again, it shows you just there is a pretty big difference between a lot of those areas in eastern Montana that just haven't been getting the precipitation and areas across south central Montana that have been getting the precipitation as they need it. So looking at some of our co-op observer sites, we look beyond Glasgow in Billings here. You can see Plentywood's about 63% of normal. This particular data set goes back towards October 1st. So this is what we consider our water year. But we're still, it really highlights how below normal we really are. Plentywood, 63% of normal. Wolf Point, 43% at the airport. Scobie, 44%. Sydney stands out at only 28% of normal precipitation, and it really, you know, kind of is at the heart of where some of our drought concerns lie. What's interesting though is you get a little bit further out of eastern Montana and looking down towards Miles City area, 64% of normal. Baker also stands out in that eastern side, 46% of normal. And then in central Montana, Lewistown at 67% of normal. So you can see some areas have gotten some decent precipitation. Zortman stands out here. Billings stands out as well, Great Falls. But a lot of areas have not. And again, this drought is largely centered over eastern, third of the state of Montana. A quick look at our current snow depth. And you can see that we do have some lingering snow. There's not much out there. And in fact, I think much of it has now left today, given our sunny skies out there. We were able to watch the last little bits of snow hanging out melt and eventually evaporate out. But so we are losing any lingering snow depth, but we are continuing to build and hold on to snow in the mountains, which again is good news for water supply from an irrigation standpoint. So that's not looking too bad. Looking at snowpack by basin, you can see again not sitting too bad, right near 100% for most basins. You can see Tongue River 108%, Powder River 115%, and the Yellowstone right near 100%, 97% or so. But further north, I did want to mention that the Milk River stands out here as it only being at 62% of normal snowpack, but there's only one sensor that makes up for that basin there, and it's in the Bears Paw Mountains. And so I think that's skewing things a little bit there, that station is now starting to melt off its snow. But up at the headwaters, up into Glacier Park area, you can see up by the St. Mary's, and of course there's that diversion, that the St. Mary's and that whole snowpack up in the Glacier Park area is right near 100% of normal. So again, I think it's a good news from a water availability standpoint for irrigation.
So how does all those observations add up when we're looking at the current drought monitor out there? You can kind of see how the northern high plains there compare to other places across the U.S. You can see some widespread dark red colors across the southwest U.S. with the widespread exceptional drought down there. Then you move up into the north, into North Dakota and Montana. We zoom in there on the next slide. You can really get a feel for how widespread even the red colors of extreme drought conditions are across central, western North Dakota, and then now that's sneaking into northeast Montana. So, those dry conditions that Patrick already talked about, and including the warm conditions on top of that, certainly not good for the drought conditions, and we have seen some deterioration in those conditions over the past few months or so. Now, on the other side, you can see south central Montana, where you see not even abnormally dry conditions into the Bighorn, Beartooth foothills area south of Billings, where we have been able to pick up a little bit of moisture and timely moisture in those areas. So as we move forward in time here, the forecast for precipitation across the region, we're going to be drying out during the day on Saturday. Tomorrow it looks like sunny and dry conditions. And then we do have a pretty strong cold front coming down late Sunday into Monday, and that's going to develop some colder temperatures again and some areas of rain and snow. And unfortunately, on the map there on the right, those lighter green shades into northeast Montana and into the Dakotas are pretty much light precipitation amounts under 1/10 of an inch. So this system is not expected to produce any significant improvements to the drought conditions. On the other side of things, down across western and south central Montana, those areas seem to be the focus for the most of the precipitation, and some wet snow, which will be beneficial again for those conditions down in that area. But again, in the northeast, again, stuck in those dry conditions. That unsettled weather will continue into Monday, and then by the middle of next week, Tuesday, we begin a slow warming trend through the rest of next week. Now, as we look at the 8 to 14 day pattern, we're getting into the end of April here. Boy, still not a lot of good news for the current precipitation outlook. Temperatures are on the left and precipitation on the right there. You see orange colors on the left showing slight trends toward a above normal temperatures for basically that last week of April. And then precipitation, you're still seeing those brown trends, which indicate below normal precipitation trends. And when we're talking about the drought outlook, are we going to see any improvements? Really not with those current forecast and outlook conditions. And in a few slides here, I'll talk about the monthly patterns too into the rest of the spring and summer. But we stay in that dark brown shade, which shows drought conditions will persist, and maybe potentially even worsen a little bit as we progress into the summer months if we don't get some timely precipitation. So here are our 3-month outlooks. The first slide here is May, June, and July. Lots of warm temperatures across the whole CONUS, with kind of a trend of above normal temperatures across the entire region of the Rockies. So no improvement there. And then the brown shades on the right map there indicating trends mostly below normal for precipitation conditions. So centered across the Idaho there, but shifts east into much of Montana and into the western Dakotas. So again, not a lot of potential based on the outlook for significant precipitation. And now even into the latter half of the summer into the fall, boy, much of the same trends again, above normal temperatures as you see on the left there, and precipitation actually bullseyes across much of our region with trends toward below normal precipitation. With all that said, we are heading into our wettest months of the year across the region as we head into May and June. So it would take a few systems. If we can get a few wet systems to come into the area, we can certainly turn things around, but certainly the outlook trends aren't favorable for any significant improvements. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining us for this latest drought briefing. On the bottom there, you'll see a couple links, and we encourage reports of what kind of drought impacts you are seeing out there. There's a couple of links. One's a national link there on the top, specifically to Montana. There's the link on the bottom. If you have any impacts that you have in your local area, you'd like to report those are significant to help us in our drought monitor mapping. So we appreciate those reports. Thank you for joining us.